If I'm going to be very honest, I feel like Americans have a superiority complex when it comes to hip hop, especially.
The first line is just, it's kind of like in somewhat controversial. Like
about 10,000 West Indians came to Britain. In 1955, it is believed another 15,000 will make the long journey.
Were you the first artist to hit 1 billion streams in 1 year?
From the UK, like the first rapper, I believe. I think so.
The accusation kind of this music is that it has very violent lyrics. The influences young people unduly to maybe follow in the footsteps of
Why are you so angry? Yeah, I'm angry because it's been going on forever.
In 2023, Central C became the first UK rapper to reach 1 billion streams in 1 year on Spotify, and a few months later, the most streamed rapper in the UK with over 2 billion streams. The New Yorker crowned him Britain's hip-hop ambassador due to his success overseas, particularly in the American market. His racial ambiguity is the talk of speculation, largely fueled by Central C's shyness on the topic and the unambiguous benefits it brings to his rap career. With the expansion of the internet, particularly with social media platforms, Black culture is much more accessible, up for objectification and appropriation. African American vernacular English turns into TikTok lingo, and hip-hop aesthetics morph into the latest fashion trend. With rapper Central C's global success in comparison to other notable Black drill acts, who can perform Black art, and why is it important to ask?
What KRS-One said in Sound of the Police about, the officer who patrols the nation essentially being a reincarnation of the overseer who rode in the plantation is spot on.
Now listen! That's called motherfucking bars, nigga!
I'm Lambros Fatsis and I'm a senior lecturer in criminology at City University of London. And my work specialises on the criminalisation of Black or Afro-diasporic music cultures from the era of colonial slavery to the present day.
My name is Yemi Abiade. I am a freelance journalist, writer, and podcaster. My work mainly centers around Black British music and culture. It basically covers everything from rap, R&B, grime, drill.
You even got to the bell flow and the girl don't fuck, she still give flows. Short bitch on the cover, breathing a rope, but you're weak on the cover. Making that dough on the cover, nothing but a quick slam.
In 2004, A Grand Don't Come For Free became the first rap album to top the UK charts at number 1. The genre since the 80s and 90s had been nourished by Black immigrants to Britain's popular metropolitan cities, while its American counterpart veered towards a capitalist machine, forcibly abandoning its liberation roots. UK hip-hop remained only known to his Black audience and a select few, garnering the attention of mainstream British popular culture only through the supposed white allies such as DJs Dave Pearce, John Peel, and Tim Westwood. In 2022, Tim Westwood was accused of using his power and privilege in the hip-hop space to sexually assault Black girls and women. As of 2023, the victim and survivor count was tallied at a minimum of 17 and spanned from the 80s to the late 2010s. When A Grand Don't Come For Free peaked at number 1 on the UK charts, the artist behind the rhymes was not Black or from anywhere in the diaspora, but rather English rapper Mike Skinner, highlighting the preferential relationship between hip-hop, its white consumers, and performers.
The UK has a bit of a different, I suppose, sonic influences when it comes to hip-hop, in the sense that it owes much more debt to Jamaican music than it would, for example, with sort of funk or Latin influences, which were so prominent in the birth of hip hop in the US.
Classic case of that would be London Posse, What's Life Like in London, which was very much like, and London Posse are very, very important because they were the first rappers, British rappers, to really rap in their own native tongue as far as like their accents. So for them, it was very much like, I think they're from South London, so it was very much like a mix of like the kind of patois, the kind of slang, with a little bit of Cockney mixed in, very much like a divorce from whatever the previous generation were doing as far as like kind of trying to imitate Americans a lot more. So What's Life Like in London is very, very, very significant because you heard the kind of hip hop influence, you heard the kind of ragga influence, you heard the reggae, you heard the dancehall, and that was kind of what crystallized in what would become British hip hop.
The UK drill sort of scene in general, it is true that, you know, we can't really understand it in exclusively racial or ethnic terms, you know, particularly in a context of contemporary urban multiculture, if we want to put it that. At the same time, you know, the aesthetic, kinesthetic, linguistic, and musical codes that define that culture are nevertheless informed by and borrow from Afro-diasporic culture.
And even when it comes down to the actual first records of British hip hop, or what we can call British hip hop, things like rappers like Derek B, Dizzy Heights, people like that, they were rapping with a cadence of Americans. They were rapping in American accents, because that was the only thing that was around at the time. There wasn't a solidified British presence, as it were, as far as like how we would take our own spin on the genre. We were very much following what America was doing at the time. And I'd probably say around the early 90s is when we started to really get our own flavor. Because just as much as hip hop is a product of, you know, dance hall and, you know, Jamaican sound system culture, it's very much the same here as well. So, and a lot of the early generation of British rappers are from that, or from those, like, that's their heritage. So a lot of them will be from, or their parents will be from the Caribbean. They'll be part of the Windrush generation, which was like the first real wave of Caribbeans that came to the United Kingdom in the 40s. So their sons, their daughters, their nieces, their nephews, these are the first rappers. These are the first MCs. These are the first, you know, graffiti artists, dancers, breakers, and that very much influenced the next wave of British rap, which was essentially clinging onto those influences and bringing them into the music a bit more.
In 2019, Atlanta rapper 21 Savage was arrested and taken into custody by the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The United States government claimed 21 Savage was a United Kingdom national and was unlawfully residing in America. 21 Savage was indeed born in London, England, but moved to Atlanta with his British national mother around the age of 7. Instead of the incident highlighting the viciousness of the immigration policy in the States or the complexity of the Afro-diasporic identity, he was clowned and memed with little to no sympathy on Black Twitter. Okay, so speaking as a, like, American hip hop head, like, obviously, like, I've listened to UK hip hop for a while, but why would you say, like, even just speaking on, like, the whole 21 Savage clowning on Black Twitter, why would you say it's hard for British hip hop to make it mainstream? Well, I mean, now it is, like UK drill is, but why has it been so hard for American hip hop's head to, like, peep game and to listen to more UK artists?
If I'm going to be very honest, I feel like Americans have a superiority complex when it comes to hip hop, especially. As the creators, as the pioneers, their word is the word, in a sense. And I respect that, because obviously they are the pioneers. And a lot of the time, I mean, I grew up listening to American hip hop way more so than I did British hip hop. I mean, the first British rappers that I really paid attention to were probably So Sonic Crew. And I'm 32 now. So I would have been like 9, 10 when I first heard them. And then as I got older, listening to grime and people like Dizzy Rascal, Skepta, Kano, Gets, these are people that I clung on to. I couldn't have said the same thing for people like Roots Maneuver, even though I love him. I couldn't have said the same for him because he wasn't my time necessarily. And I feel like with Americans, I also feel like, especially when it comes to like the actual lyrics and the lyricism, I feel like because there's such a wide abundance of talent in America, it's almost as if they don't need to check out anyone else from other parts of the world, because they're speaking more to the American rappers are speaking more to their experiences, and the British experience is very much an alien experience for them, which I feel like is a result of the kind of superiority complex, because first of all, Americans don't have the greatest idea or the most accurate idea of what life is like in the UK. I feel like a lot of them still think that we speak the Queen's English, we're posh just like the Queen, and we're posh just like the aristocracy, not taking into account the fact that real stuff happens here as well. You know what I mean? We've got our own problems here that very much mirror anything that you might have seen coming out of New York in the 70s, you know, LA in the 80s.
So I would say that the difference is not as radically different as it is often assumed. Yes, it differs, as I said, in terms of scale, but the logic and tactics of racist oppression are hardly dissimilar. And I suppose one example that I often give in relation to that is that in the very day that in New York, the New York Senate bill was introduced, that's a bill that was referred to as a rap on trial bill, which tried to exclude or limit the use of rap lyrics and rap videos and rap related content in court as, you know, incriminating evidence. On the very same day that this bill was discussed in the New York Senate, in Britain, 10 young black boys appeared in Manchester Crown Court facing charges that relied heavily on rap lyrics and videos, right? And that's in a legal penal system where no such bills, let alone laws, exist. So essentially what I'm trying to say is that even if we do consider the US being, as you know, the worst offender in terms of scale and in terms of the mass criminalization of, you know, of black people and the use of rap as, you know, evidence of criminal wrongdoing, well, across the pond, you don't even have such discussions about whether the law needs to change.
Boom. I'm Scrib 6'7". I am Drill.
6'7" over everything. Break packs, double up, bring weapons in.
Griot is a term used to describe the oral historians of West Africa. These men and women travel from village to village.
In July, his widely viral, provocative single Doja charted in 26 countries. The refrain, "How can I be homophobic? My bitch is gay," seemed to emanate from every car and smartphone for a while, including the US, where British rappers have found it notoriously hard to get success. Travis Scott reposted his freestyle. Drake put him in his Jumbotron shit-popping music video. Amin Mukhtar, British Vogue. In August of 2023, Central C's manager YB's issued pointed messages through his Snapchat platform, defending his starred client and calling out the alleged hypocrisy in the UK drill scene, especially the narrative that Central C was fabricating the lifestyle he rapped about. "Everyone trying to police who's a real trapper. It's a fried occupation," he said. Central C, or Cench for short, was born Oakley Caesar Sue to an English mother and a father who's Guyanese and Chinese. His first years were spent in Ladbroke Grove, located in the royal borough of Kensington and Chelsea. The royal status is misleading since London's urban planning post the Second World War saw the integration of council flats or public housing in wealthier neighborhoods. People from different social classes, occupations, and racial backgrounds now living closer together. Central C's English mother came from a financially secure background, but her relationship with his poor West Indies father challenged family relations. Several years later, after his parents separated, Central C, his mother, and younger brothers moved to Shepherd's Bush in West London. The family's financial state wasn't that great, and he dealt party drugs as a side hustle. Cench noted in his British Vogue profile that his father was homeless during this period, and he even slept in his van during their occasional parental hangouts. He started recording music around the age of 14 after some initial interest in poetry. His 2023 collaboration with fellow British rapper Dave on the track Sprinter spent several weeks at #1 on the UK's single charts. But years prior, Central C struggled with relevance in the country's hip-hop space.
It's quite a dark, haunting sounding, genre. It's in its sound, quite deep bass, quite much slower in the delivery of the rhymes, particularly compared to Grime, which was super fast and very, very kind of frenzied rhyming.
Chief Keef is the prime inspiration. Chief Keef and Young Chop, those the kind of wave that they came in and brought in with their with US drill, and it very much quickly landed in the UK. People like 6'7", 150, K-Trap, Heady One, very much coming from the underground and utilizing what was then the kind of Young Chop, Chief Keef sound, and then kind of maturing it and evolving it with the help of producers like 808 Mellow, Carnes Hill, Axel, people like that to kind of evolve the sound.
One could say that it is a kind of ethnographic commentary on how, urban life in major cities like London or Birmingham or Manchester is lived. And that does include, tales of violence. It does include tales of police oppression. It does involve tales of social inequality and injustice, and I think all those are actually mixed in the lyrics as well. So I think it would be simplistic to say, oh, it's just mostly sort of gangster related stuff.
So I'd say like an early, really important track in UK drill was 6-7 Let's Lurk, and that very much follows the same kind of sonic pattern as I Don't Like, or Love Salsa sort of thing, as far as like the really kind of not necessarily slow tempo, but it's very like bass heavy. It's very like stomping drums. It's very like the clue is kind of in the title. It's kind of like a lurking type of production. And then as time went on, especially on the UK drill side, that then kind of evolved into kind of more sped up tempo, a frequent use of hi-hats, kind of warble kind of effects.
How is drill empowering or maybe even therapeutic for Black youth?
Yeah, massively. I mean, massively. And we don't just hear that from, rappers who make it and become commercially successful, who when interviewed, will either refer to a youth center that they went to, which allowed them to hone their skills and express themselves. But also one sees it when one goes to youth clubs and youth centers and in such groups where you do see young people expressing that not only through the lyrics but also informally too. So in my encounters with young rappers, for example, that is a standard response you get, and it makes total sense. I mean, it's one of the ways that people want to express themselves with, and using rap as a medium that they want to express themselves with. They might want to express or communicate trauma, anger, but also other emotions: solidarity, love, sense of community, sense of kinship.
There's this thing that happens in the UK where every Black genre that involves rapping is just the center of this huge media storm at some point, moral panic when it comes to, our children being protected. This is the new domineering genre that's scary. Like, people are getting, unalived off of this genre. Like, what do we need to do? And it even went as far in this country as the head of the Metropolitan Police essentially okaying the banning of drill videos from YouTube. This happened around like 2018, 2019. And that was unprecedented because it never really happened like that. But, back in the day when there was grime, there was Operation Trident, and there was Form 696, which kind of prevented or curtailed the amount of space and the amount of communities that rappers and grime communities could kind of cultivate. And I guess the banning of videos from YouTube has kind of just like taken on a new modern face of it. But over time, drill has evolved to incorporate a bunch of different topics. If you listen to people like Heady One and K-Trap, they're not just talking about, enacting violence. They're talking about their lives. They're talking about their hopes, their dreams, their personal struggles. Very introspective. It just happens to be over a drill beat. People like Digga D, who's had a very documented struggle with the law, talking about those struggles, talking about wanting to get away from his past life.
Now, of course, much of the violence and the sort of, criminal lifestyle is commodified. But again, I would, personally, I would let, drill rappers off the hook a little bit, because, that's what's actually celebrated by an entire market, that loves to consume that stuff.
The mixtape's called Music and Roll, and it's just about like duality and people change.
Whiteness, the default standard when it comes to social hierarchy, has always existed along with hip-hop culture. Through its oppressive relationship with the Black identity, it has occupied multiple positions along hip-hop's lifespan. First as a dismissive critic, then a voyeuristic consumer, and finally a minstrel performer. The artistic movement that is hip-hop culture was birthed in the 70s from disenfranchised Black and brown Bronx youth, an act of joy, community, and resistance from white society set on their extinction. When things started happening for me, I was getting a lot of heat. Being a white rapper, and Double XL wrote something about that. Coming up, I had to deal with that a lot. I wanted to be respectful because what I do is black music. I knew I was coming to it as a guest in the house. Rapper Eminem said for his 2022 cover story with the magazine, "White rappers or racially ambiguous rappers like Central C are now very common within hip-hop culture, and that is okay. Hip-hop has long lost its gatekeepers, and unfortunately, much of black art and traditions are never coded as closed practices, even if they are. Perhaps the issue isn't Central C's peculiar dichotomy, but rather the system that rewards his identity and performance of a black art over actual black artists."
The genre's lyrics have been cited by MPs and police for an increase in knife crimes in London. Is this statistics true?
No.
Yeah, so Central C is an interesting one because he's been making music for over a decade now, and it hasn't always been drill. Like as early as 2015, he was on Linked Up TV, which is a freestyle platform over in the UK, releasing videos. Around 2020, he dropped a song called "A Day in the Life," and it was kind of all over social media, and it was kind of all over the timeline, as it were. And it sounded different in the sense of the actual beat itself was a lot more mellow. It was a lot more relaxing, and he was very much rapping about a day in his life.
Just before, again, the police were making public statements about this kind of new menacing, rap subgenre, not many people knew about it. People either still, and for a while, people were still referring to drill as grime. That even if those statistics kind of were pointing to something, it is important to remind ourselves that, police statistics or any kind of statistics actually record activity, right? So in our case, police activity. So if you police people more regularly, those numbers are going to go up.
Why would you say Central C has made wider strides in the American market compared to like drill stars like Heady One, Digga D, K-Trap? Like I know Heady One did a feature with Drake, but I think Drake tends to like hop onto new waves. So yeah, that's explanatory. I think K-Trap has tried with some not K-Trap, Digga D's done stuff with like Moneybagg Yo, but not like a substantial big artist compared to Central C. So why do you think he's made bigger strides in the American market?
It's a lot of things, really. I think, first of all, right place, right time. I think we're in an age now, we're in a space now where people are more willing to try new things. And I think we can put that up against the context and the backdrop, not just of rap, but of Afrobeats as well. Like we can obviously see that Afrobeats is very, very popular. And I think with that comes a willingness and an openness outside of that to try other sounds. On his come up, Central C has very much been utilizing TikTok and social media to a T. Like he'll use TikTok to preview new music. And even when the music is released, he's still dropping videos promoting the music. And that has reach, has a lot of reach. He's reached people all around the world. And I think it's come down to him also having like very accessible in a sense. I think he makes more accessible music, drill music anyway, than probably a Digga D or a Heady One, mainly because of the actual music itself. Like I mentioned, songs like Day in the Life, songs like Loading, because they represented like a new sound in drill. It wasn't so much the kind of domineering kind of, I suppose, spooky kind of production you would hear on stuff from artists like a Heady or a Lowski or a Harlem Spartans. It was more so like sample based. He was incorporating horns and trombones, and he was sampling people like Gwen Stefani sort of thing. So immediately for me anyway, that's what kind of drew me to him, because he was taking a different approach to that. And I think generally as well, like as far as lyrically, he could rap as well. And I put him next to anyone in the drill scene as far as that rapping ability.
I suppose a telling example is Central C, who I know is someone you're thinking a lot about. So I thought I'd mention, him as an example, which, for example, in a freestyle, I don't know if you've heard it, the LA Leaguers freestyle that he did, which brings together Jamaican patois, Cockney, and Arabic. using words like brother or fam, from a Jamaican patois, or ak, which is an Arabic word of endearment, like brother, but also words like gaff, which is like a Cockney English term for a place of residence, one's house, and so on. So London is very mixed in that.
A lot of debate has been around, is he appropriating the genre? Is he, when he shows up to an award show in a full tracksuit, is he appropriating? Is he making fun of black culture? Is he making fun of working class culture?
I think we should also kind of make room for an interpretation of such popularity in voyeuristic terms, let's explore this content that is kind of thrilling but is removed from our lives, so almost kind of consuming the commodification, if you like, of black trauma, the commodification of the experience of racism, without one having to submit themselves to that experience of racism as well.
Britain is a racist country, absolutely. It's just racist, I suppose, in a different way, if that even exists, sort of thing. And that very much lends itself to rap and how rap is seen. And it'd be interesting to see, as rap continues to kind of soar, if minds change, if perspectives change, and where we'll be in a few years, in like a decade's time. So, listen, I haven't always believed him, but I might be on his side now. He said for a while that Brits are making better rap music than Americans these days.
I disagree, but but that's like differences. Yeah, I'm a hip hop head, so like Americans, I'm obviously gonna rap mindset, but like y'all can come, but I still think we have the crown. You're trying, you're getting there, but
no, you always have the crown. I mean, you got like a 10-year head start, but
yeah. I'm sorry, I don't know if that was too mean, but I'm just gonna rep my set. Yeah.
No, I hear it. That's the superiority complex coming in. That's what I was talking about.